So there are multiple stories that have our protagonist either devolve into a villainous state, such as Vegeta in the beginning of the Majin Buu arc, or become a flat-out anti-villain, such as Eren Yeager, doing villainous activities for a noble cause, or also lawful evil would fit that case, I guess. Seeing the main character's seemingly innocent facade get shattered by unforeseen circumstances definitely shows a dichotomy of before and after said incident that led up to them becoming the Lovecraftian nightmare that we once cheered on, or will continuously cheer on in a lethargic fashion because of the bond we shared with the previous character before they became the nightmare. Our main character Yu goes through 3 phases that we will discuss in further detail as well. The first phase is the phase I like to describe as mania, periods of great excitement, euphoria, delusions, and overactivity. And this is basically explained because he was just a regular guy doing regular things in NPC life, is given an opportunity to basically become a hitman and becomes this.
なんだ、お嬢様って言っても大して良くなかったな。気が変わったんでね。
Yes, no sane person would just willy-nilly accept that position with no foresight whatsoever. The second phase I would like to describe, which perfectly transitions from what I just said there, is a dissociative state, which is basically him just floating from event to event and no longer control of anything that he does or that he feels at any present moment.
You, お前服脱げ。
That reaction basically describes how he feels, how he is throughout the entire series, after realizing he got himself knee-high in a bucket of shit. And the third phase is, well, whatever response this phase elicits, I have yet to be educated enough to fully encapsulate what in the actual dog that face is supposed to portray. Unbeknown to me, that is probably the face of someone doing the Kubrick stare with no brain activity. Now, this is the story of how accidentally bumping into someone can lead you living out your wildest carnal fantasies and having said fantasies catch up to you like karma and causing everyone around you to suffer drastically because of it. Heartwork Symphony of Destruction. Here we go. So the example of what the title itself means could be best described through Vegeta in the Majin Vegeta arc. We aren't talking about his final flash or his stand against Majin Buu or anything like that, because that doesn't serve the purpose I want to glean from that said story. We are talking about the build up to what got us there in the first place. Now, before I fully get into explaining how we end up cheering for the villain the same way we cheer for a hero that slowly progresses to his peak form, I want to elaborate on what a villain is. A villain, to me, in my definition, is someone who is pure evil. That would be someone who's morally reprehensible and is actively seeking to cause pain and suffering of others, and also plans on bending the world to their own will in an autocratic fashion. Now, the definition is a bit prescriptive and loaded, I know, but when it comes to morally defining what a villain is and trying to empirically pin down said character, it is easier to explain the massive amount of harm being caused by this person existing and framing it in such a way where when people cheer this person off for no matter what they're doing, they have to acknowledge what they are. Another way to put this would be, you wouldn't cheer someone on for being a serial killer because, hot take, being a serial killer is kind of bad. Now, if we had some extra context into how he thinks and how he acts, like let's say this serial killer has been constantly abused as a child, he was homeless growing up, everybody picked on him, he got ran over 3 times by a car, the medical system abandoned him, he had a disfigured face, he couldn't even walk properly, but the only way he could receive respite in the world and relief in his true self is if he killed doctors that would treat him wrong with malpractice. Then you would start to relate to him more like, oh, okay, all the wrongdoings he has suffered, I kind of sort of see where he's coming from. And also he looks like a mismatch of, and therefore I feel really bad for him because he can't go out on prom. Seeing that person being more redeemable, you're willing to overlook any morally corrupt actions because nothing can match the pain they feel inside. So we have you, an ordinary high schooler with an ordinary life, on his way to his ordinary subway in his ordinary city, and he bumps into a Mandork Kaiba love child lookalike here, and they both drop their identical looking briefcases, by the way, and then they go on about their way. Now, I don't know why a hitman, because that's what Kaiba Jr. is supposed to be here. Why is a hitman carrying, what we're going to find out later, his assignment and his pistol in a suitcase. Now, I have thought about this, and I guess the only thing I think of is to casually blend in with society, because no one's gonna check your briefcase on the street because they aren't cops, and cops don't really randomly walk up on people to say, check, give me a briefcase, because everybody goes to work, right? So I guess that would make sense in that instance. But if that's the case, you would carry one or the other. You wouldn't carry both items completely necessary for you to do your next mission. I can't, oh, it's like if you had to work as a nuclear physicist, right? And new nuclear codes just dropped, and you got this brand new schematics, and you have to get them finalized so you can start making the nuke. So you put the nuclear schematic blueprints in your suitcase, and you also put your identification card in the same suitcase. So if you bump into the street with somebody, someone can pick that shit up, open the suitcase, and they see the schematics for a nuclear bomb and your ID card. They can just take over your identity, take over your plan, take over your everything, because you kept two of your most vital pieces of information to your job and your So clearly I'm mad at this point. Once he was on the train, Kaiba Jr. points at his briefcase and says, hey, we need to switch. However, the moment you realize that, the train takes off. He goes home, and like I mentioned, an M1911 and a VHS tape describing the hit job that Kaiba Jr., aka Hunter, was supposed to take. Kaiba Jr., again, most of my complaints are about this guy existing, because holy if he did any due diligence whatsoever, this show would not exist. So let me get this straight. You just let this random college student just take your assassination assignment and not chase him until 2 weeks afterward. Now, why do I say 2 weeks? Because you naively waits for the hit job to come around to fully go investigate it. Because the hit job was 2 weeks from the day he had the suitcase. So we are clearly dealing with people who have room temp IQs all around. Now, while this is happening, we flash to the cops talking about this cursed gun that you is in possession of.
不祥事の種が専属捜査員2名の大捜査とは恐れ入ったね。
聞いたままだよ。一課長の捜査方針を採用しただけだ。
例の銃の新しいオーナーだ。あんたが何をしようと知ったこっちゃないが、あまり無茶はしない方がいいんじゃないか。
おお、私も君から心配されるようになったか。
誰も心配しちゃいないさ。またオーナーが動いたら来るわ。
And they're basically explaining that, oh, this gun has been in and out of custody that we've been holding for a long time. This gun basically gives people extra mind wave intelligence points like it's from D&D. All of a sudden have the capability of a SWAT officer when it comes to owning a pistol, and they can just become a marksman without little to no experience because the gun itself possesses them like sort of a symbiotic relationship there. So that's an interesting concept that I don't really dive into. That's a whole another subject entirely. I'll get to that later on. So since we know now the gun is cursed and the cops have told us the gun is cursed, we have set up for this scene here. So when he grabbed the gun, he starts having massive hallucinations of him murdering the person he's supposed to kill for his hit job. It is done in such a gruesome fashion that it makes us, the viewer, go, wait a minute, that isn't the you I know, that is evil you, Majin you even. He looks elated at looking at a corpse that he caused to become a corpse. Odd. He wakes up from this delirious nightmare, he comes to and then starts to go about his business, about his day. This sort of foreshadowing is definitely a new medium because I wasn't expecting him to fully actualize what he saw in his nightmare and succumb to the possessed firearm. I was expecting that to be more or less just like Austin Universe, like, oh my God, wouldn't this be so crazy? But them actually going on and saying this is what's gonna happen, LMAO, get wrecked kid, is kind of cool. Now, this sort of concept of inanimate objects coming to and basically possessing people is very reminiscent of stories such as Christine, where the car speaks to the person in the driving seat while also simultaneously possessing them. It's a pseudo-schizo multiple personality thematic story element because no one else could truly experience what it was like for said person to be under control of the inanimate object. While they can all be controlled and ruled by the gun or the car in this instance, Christine's case, each person under said hypnosis experiences it completely differently. So therefore they share a bond of experience in the first place. However, it's not the same experience entirely.
その銃の噂。
持つ者を狂わせる狂気の銃だろ。
ねえ、ハンター。今のあなたは正気かしら。
どうだろうな。
So as we progress to the day of the hit, 2 weeks later from him seeing the video, he meets his partner Angel and they bond. And here we are. They raid the target's house, and once in the house and in possession of the gun, Angel drugs the target and sort of feeds her to you. And then the clip I showed you earlier happens because the gun is now slowly becoming one of him. He's now turning into Majin Yu. Now he's further devolving into this lustful, psychotic killing machine of no remorse whatsoever. And the naivete or innocence that he once had to his core gets melted away with the corrosive acid of the cursed gun, possessing his every single being. So he would be a chaotic evil with no control over his own actions. After successfully finishing the hit job, he goes back to his regular conscious self as if none of the things he's ever done happened, and he goes back home. However, he meets Hunter, and Hunter becomes the hunted.
よう、遅かったな。偽物。おいおい、妙な真似するんじゃねえぞ。
The cursed gun gave you an extra step forward to take advantage of the situation and make Hunt's body back. But before the gun, before the Majin Yu arc, he would have never done this. And there's evidence of events at all. And the thing that really does make all this odd to me is that when Angel went to feed the target to you, they left evidence inside of the target because, again, he's a lustful carnal beast with no control over his conscious state whatsoever because of the gun. So therefore, they have actual DNA evidence of him inside of her core. So room temp IQs all around. That's the only thing that explains anything going on here. So now that was episode 1. We have to explain episode 2 and 3, and I'm gonna be honest, they're pretty short to describe because it's just mostly just non-stop cavalcades of a multitude of many amounts can lead that to possibility of one action. So in episode 2, he brings the gun to school, and for some reason he blames Matsui.
Asakuraくこれは僕のじゃなくて。
おいおい、知らないぞ。
The gun gets confiscated and Matsui gets punished. Now the teacher is scolding Matsui, and you and his new girlfriend and other polyamorous crush girl over here are watching the whole thing unfold, and they go, man, this sure is boring watching the friend that you framed to have a gun to school get punished. We should just go at it. And they do. While they're going at it, Matsui looks at the shiny new gun because he likes guns, picks the gun up, and becomes possessed immediately. And then we turn into a school hostage shooter situation. And if you're American, you know what happens next because this is a monthly occurrence. But that's like, what am I, British? That's a joke. Anyway, now at this point, Matsui's killed 2 people. The SWAT team, police have been called, but they're on the way. However, they're not there yet. And for some reason, you and the girls that have just finished copulating come down and meet Matsui with a fully loaded in his hand, and he notices them and takes them hostage in the classroom where he kills a couple other students. Now Matsui, for obvious reasons, cannot make himself ready to penetrate. So he makes you extracts fertile seed out of his penis until he dies. And it gets so gruesome to the point where we are seeing a sounding instrument inserted so he's constantly oozing out the life liquid, and it comes to a point where he's just seeing blood and he's just out there just despondent. And I assume this goes on for hours because, like I mentioned, the blood and the area very gruesome. And it gets to the point where Matsui's like, hey, fuck you, shoots him. SWAT comes in, shoots Matsui. Now we have Matsui dead, we have you dead, we have a couple of students dead, and that's the end of episode 2. Now you're probably wondering, how the hell is there a 3rd episode? Well, according to the wiki, yes, I use sources. Because this is based off a video game, they gave everyone except Matsui a soft reset and basically made episode 2 non-canon, and they moved on to episode 3. Now, I remember I saw someone in the comments of the Euphoria video I made basically saying that the episodes I said that were canon weren't canon, and my logic was flawed because I just assumed moving on meant the actual time was the later episodes, but in reality it could be something completely different and time could be completely different and shifted. But my thing is, if episode 3 or the final episode wasn't canon, Euphoria or this one, then why would they make another episode? And if you're gonna say because they wanted extra filler, well, if that episode is a filler, then why is that episode following the same timeline as the first episode is? So I'm giving the same logic here, so therefore the second episode to me is filler. But the third episode, also relatively short. So in episode 3, he has an relationship with his mother, and then this goes on for quite some time to the point where he's absent at school for, I have to assume, weeks. It has to be weeks because the teacher comes to his house and says, hey, you haven't been to school for quite some time, what's going on? And instead of, addressing the teacher and going like, yeah, life's been tough, I'm sorry, I gotta go back to school, Mizutani, his mother, they just flat out force her to join an unwanted threesome with the two of them. And then the mother ends up killing the teacher because you was liking her too much. Fantastic. While all that was happening, Hunter and Angel finally unite to hunt down the cursed gun that was in Hunter's suitcase because, again, this is canon. He, as a hitman who is prolific in being the top of the cream of the crop, didn't track down his gun in time for his job, so therefore his partner had to hunt down the gun instead of doing her actual hit. Kaiba Jr. just pissed me off so much. That bowl cut, this demeanor, this arrogance for no reason, everything about this man just pissed me off. I'm terribly sorry. I've never been this aggravated in my life. They finally unite to meet up like, oh god, yeah, we need to find this gun. They find this gun, and they go on and to pursue Mizutani and Yu himself. And while they're tracking them down, the cops are also hunting them down because they now know the cursed gun is in Yu's possession. Now, how do they get that knowledge? I don't really know. I assume it's because of the hit job to jump off of as a foundation to hunting down Yu, because otherwise it makes no sense. He just found out all of a sudden he has a gun. That makes no sense, right? Curious. And everybody's hunting Yu and Mizutani down. However, they're going at it with each other nonstop. And in the midst of it all, Hunter and Angel are the first ones to find them. Hunter kills Mizutani, aka Misako, takes the cursed gun back, walks away, and then Angel says this quote here.
選択を誤った親子なのかもしれない。やめよう。きっかけだったことは紛れもない事実。その後の選択をしたのは当事者以外の誰でもないのだから。でも、なぜいつもあの銃なのかしら。
Okay, and that's how the story ends for episode 3. Now, is this a roller coaster of emotions that all started because a hitman was lazy to do his job and hunt down a person to get his job? Yes, but this speaks to the curiosity of diving into a more exciting lifestyle without thinking about any possible circumstances that could lead you to, well, basically becoming a devil incarnate of yourself. Now, what does any of this have to do with Relatable Villain whatsoever? I have a question. Did you at any point of the story feel sorry for you? Not you, but you as in the character. I know you feel sorry for yourself for listening to this shit because this must have made you drive insane. Because I'm gonna be honest, I most certainly did the entire time. You were just some random nitwit who stumbled upon a VHS tape in a fully loaded M1911 at the ripe old age of I hate high school. And this seemingly impossible situation just looked entertaining. Why wouldn't you try to see if this is real or not? Even hypothetically, if this was all real and the man on the videotape was like, hey, your job is to kill this woman who was the primary heir of a millionaire who has, like, I don't want to find out more about that. 18, 19 years old, I would too, 100%. And the downside of that is because there's no foresight to the possibility that even if this was real, that it could permanently alter his life, and he could be targeted by the organization who orchestrated the hit, and he could be also targeted by the people who he was trying to kill in the first place. A guaranteed death sentence no matter what happened if he proceeded with this entire job, period. And now looking back on it, the way his life ended in both episodes 2 and 3 were far more severe punishments than just going to jail for the crimes committed. In episode 2, he dies to getting tortured to death and then shot, and then gets factory reset to the point of not having any ties or connection to episode 2 ever happening, but still has to live with the knowledge of him obtaining a hitman's gun that was cursed and a hitman's job that I could also say was cursed given the amount of pressure and targets that are placed on his back, given the amount of pressure that's on him right now. So in this series, he has to relive these events again and again without him being none the wiser because of the fact this is video game log. Resets episode 2 and 3 every single time ad infinitum. So in a sense, the feelings of anxiety, fear, and panic you experiences, we also do as well, because we know he'll have to go through this entire experience again because of how the video game logic works in this series. To summarize what I mean by all this phrasing I'm meant to say here, his whole life has been altered drastically because of one decision he made. One flippant decision with little to no foresight, no thought, and he can never go back to normal life again. Now back to the title. Now, why do relatable villains allow for more in-depth world building? Well, what I literally just said, it allows you to think meta-ethically on the concepts that are just being presented to you. It's not just what they are, it's what they mean, and what they say they mean to be what they are. Also, on top of that, you can dedicate an entire arc of series fully completing the villain's arc and giving the audience something else to look forward to. And to go back into the Majin Vegeta example I explained earlier on in the series, spoiler alert by the way, Dragon Ball Z is decades old. For some reason, if you don't want to hear spoilers in Dragon Ball Z, skip to here. I'm probably not going to remember to edit this in, so if you did stay, you are elite. Congratulations. Now you have extra content to fully grasp the show I'm reviewing. Feel proud of yourself. Vegeta as the character up to this point in Dragon Ball Z was once a war criminal under the authority of a galactic imperialist with the power to nuke planets named Frieza. Goku, the main character of this entire story, stayed him for being betrayed by Frieza, the man who literally committed genocide to his race of people. And ever since that moment, he's been slowly adapting and becoming a regular citizen. And at this point in the tournament arc, he's a family man, fully redeemed in the eyes of the viewers, and has performed numerous heroic acts in the previous arcs as well, such as aiding Gohan and finally killing Cell. Now, this was a massive moment here, and it sort of starts to melt away his villainous facade, because up until this moment of him distracting Cell long enough for Gohan to get the final kill and win, Vegeta was gloating the entire time of this Cell arc, saying, I'm wiping the ground with this main villain with ease. Just give me some training, my son. And then he got humbled.
It's over.
Multiple times. He now has to deal with the fact, after this arc, that he isn't as powerful as he once thought he was. Like back when he was a war criminal, he could kill anyone Frieza told him to with little to no thought. And during the moment before and after of killing innocent civilians, he would be the strongest in that moment because the people he was killing were too weak to fight back. But not realizing that with goals and aspirations that do not include killing innocent civilians to boost his ego, said ego will become bruised at all times. On top of that, there will always be constant concrete proof of someone being better than him because he couldn't save himself from Frieza basically killing him, i.e. Goku. And Goku is his one thing that he always is trying to put at the top of his list to beat, to be stronger than Goku. That's this one running theme that Vegeta has the entire time. One of the main inspiration and motivation as to why he became a good guy in the first place was because one of his main goals was to defeat Goku. So he's like, I'm gonna get stronger to defeat you. It's my whole purpose of life now. I once was underneath the control of Frieza, this autocratic, basically demigod nuking planets, but now I am hell-bent on killing you while raising a family. And in this tournament arc, he's given a chance to finally, for once in his life, be able to fight with Goku on fair, even grounds. Because before that arc, there wasn't a direct one-on-one fight where there would be on equal, fair grounds. This tournament had Vegeta just on edge the entire arc. He was waiting for this moment. His whole life after he got saved and after losing to Goku once at the beginning of the Saiyan arc was to defeat Goku finally, fairly 1v1. And will this happen basically? Yeah, because Spopovich and Yamu stole Gohan's energy, Goku and Supreme Kai were like, hey, we have to chase those motherfuckers because they gonna start the next villain arc that we kind of want to prevent here. That's why me, a literal god, is down here trying to tell you guys this because I know you guys are strong as fuck. And they go chase him off and a whole other arc begins. So at this point, Vegeta has been cucked yet again from getting a full final fight against Goku. So when Babidi gives Vegeta the opportunity to say, hey bro, I can give you a little bit of a power boost and completely erase your moral axioms if you can just fight Goku for me and delay you guys from stopping me from unlocking my true master plan here. Please, can you do that? Vegeta took that opportunity instantly. And what does this all mean? What am I trying to get at here? Basically this, when Vegeta finally had the opportunity to fight Goku and was delayed after basically spending years of his life trying to get up to this moment, and now he has a choice between fighting Goku or saving the world, he's going to choose to fight Goku because the only thing that's been keeping him alive up to this point was fighting Goku. Even if that meant risking literally the entirety of the galaxy by reviving the new threat Majin Buu, he was still down for it. The thing about that is, when it comes to Vegeta finally making that decision and choosing his own pride and his own fight against Goku again over saving the galaxy, we have a sort of dilemma here. Like, well, I mean, yeah, what Vegeta did was bad, but at the same time, like, he was waiting for this moment. This is the only reason why he was actually good. I mean, yeah, he's killing innocent people, but like, Goku, just fight him, bro. That's all he wants. Like, come on. And I had that sort of problem with Heartwork, and also had this sort of problem with Dragon Ball Z, right? Where, again, the dilemma isn't as drastic as Dragon Ball Z is, but in Heartwork, we have the same problem here that I mentioned before. Just an innocent kid just said, oh, a gun, this looks cool, bang, bang, bang. And next thing you know, he's a demon. Next thing you know, he's a shot. The thing about this Majin Buu arc as well is that the fact that Vegeta has been relatable up until the point he became a villain again makes him becoming a villain such a shocking, almost euphoric experience to see unfold. It's, for lack of better words, chills that you experience from seeing that unfold. And same sort of reactions happening here with Heartwork, where what was once seen as tee ha ha kicks and giggles is now just a psychotic rampage of lust and bloodlust. When the main characters have their mind break phase or literally become villains, it's almost an entirely different person narratively that has to essentially be rebuilt and have their own story retold because this is a brand new character. So that was Heartwork. And since there are no heroes in that entire story whatsoever, we're left with the question, did you deserve both endings? Well, in the ending of episode 3, he got assaulted in Stockholm Syndrome by his mother, and it's very reminiscent of Milk Money, and basically the elder figure having complete control of the situation, and also murders in front of said victim.
ユウの子供はこんな女には産ませないわよ。
そうだね。
ユウの子供は私が。
Yep, she kills her. Who saw that coming? Cops pull up and they're looking for Shinji, the 18-year-old boy that went missing on the TV. They don't go to her house, they just walk by. Obviously, Kyoko has to hide because Kyoko is the main reason why Shinji is missing. You know, since he fucking killed him. So I feel like that probably is the worst situation because in episode 2, he dies. So he doesn't have to suffer any consequences of his action. But in episode 3, he sort of loses consciousness and just becomes this sex-depraved, bottom-dwelling Neanderthal, for lack of better words. I'm sorry, this face just lights up my fight or fight response. It's so egregious. All right, guys, I'm an outro, but if I did, wouldn't matter because don't make fun of the video. Good night. And I will say this, Heartwork, it was definitely a show that existed on this planet that was produced by people who make shows, for sure. It is definitely one of those interesting non-linear plot shows, I would definitely say that much. The whole concept of inanimate objects possessing people as well is definitely something I want to further explore because it's such a random, really specific niche that it almost has to be a secondary or tertiary element like this story used it as, because if it's the main story, then it's kind of hard to fully flesh out the details of anything because it's solely based on the item possessing them. And I guess you can go back in the lore of what the item was, but because Heartwork didn't really do that, left it sort of a mystery, it kind of makes you ask more questions about the environment itself instead of like what the possessed item does itself. So yeah, let me know what other content I'm reviewing in the future. Let me know what you thought about this video, period. Let me know if you watched Dragon Ball Z, had any differing opinions on my Majin Vegeta arc there, because I sort of stumbled upon that example and it kind of explains what I further mean by relatable villain. It might be a bit too, how do I say, insular or hyper specific. However, a lot of people love Vegeta. I do too, and using him as a relatable villain and the Majin Buu arc in specific is one-on-one comparison to me. Well, let me know. All right, guys. See you next time. Have a nice day, bitch.